The Undeniable Favor of God, Achieving My Present by Walking in the Light of God's Love by Elizabeth Jean Bruce, Ph.D. Chapter 1. What in the world am I doing? Discovering and beginning the journey toward my goal. Childlike faith. Since I was a child, I could feel the presence of God. I was born into a family who loved God and raised me to know my Creator for myself. I developed a strong belief in and spiritual connection with God very early in life. I remember my first serious conviction regarding the destiny of my soul was around the age of 5. I knew I wanted to be saved and make it into heaven, but I was not absolutely sure about my present status with God. I was very concerned. I pleaded to God within myself, please save me and help me make it into heaven. One day, while riding in the car with my parents, I asked them, how can I know I'm going to heaven? I felt a great sense of relief when my parents responded to me. They said all I had to do was let God know that I wanted to go to heaven, and that if I asked the Lord to save me, He already had. I could be assured I was going to heaven. That was a wonderful day for me. I felt much lighter and more carefree. I was very happy and knew from that day forward that I was saved and going to heaven someday. I've been looking forward to it ever since. Eventually, during later years in elementary school, I did remind the Lord that I still wanted to go to heaven, and I asked Him to do whatever it takes to help me make it into heaven. My relationship with God continued to flourish during my childhood, and at age 5, I experienced an awesome miracle. I had been born with an itchy rash on the back of my neck. In hindsight, I suspect it may have been eczema. My parents made many attempts to make the rash go away, including ointments, creams, and doctor visits, but the rash was persistent and uncomfortable. One night, while sleeping alone in my room, I felt a hand on my neck, touching the rash. The hand came from the direction of the wall that my bed was positioned against. It was a supernatural hand. It was a holy hand with a calm, gentle, and precise touch. I knew instantly that I was being healed. I was not afraid or startled. I looked around my room to see if anyone was present, but I didn't see anyone. I went right back to sleep. The next morning, I told my mother someone had touched my neck last night. I described the events of the previous evening. When my mother examined my neck, she said, "It's gone." My rash was completely gone, and the skin where it was smooth and flawless. Our family was so happy and excited for that wonderful miracle that God gave me. I've never forgotten that healing touch. For years to come, whenever I had a chance, I would tell anyone who would listen about my healing touch from God. Each time I told the story, my eyes would well up with tears. I remember describing my experience to peers at school. I would often get blank stares like they were not sure whether or not to believe me, but I continued to share my testimony. I would testify to people at church and extended family members as well. My mother still had a tape recording of me giving testimony to her and my aunt. After I shared my testimony, I said, "He touched me. He really did." My aunt responded, "He did?" I replied, "He did." My mother began singing, "He touched me and made me whole." Early school years. My years in school were relatively pleasant. I was never famous or popular, but I always had a few close friends who helped make school enjoyable. 2 friends were very close, and both friends remained in contact years after elementary school. I was very happy for each of them when they got married and had children. I was fortunate that the Lord blessed me to do well academically. My mother used to frequently tell a story about a time when she and my father visited my school for teacher-parent night. I was in the 3rd or 4th grade at the time. My mother said that my teacher spent quite a bit of time focusing on my success in class and sharing it with the parent gathering while my father kept dozing off. I was glad to hear that my teacher thought so well of me, and I thought it was funny that my father kept dozing off during parent-teacher night. My first school years, kindergarten through second grade, were at Ruth School in Hayward, California, and Murray School in Dublin, California. During these first years of school, my favorite part of the day was eating breakfast at home. I always felt warm and cozy while enjoying my first meal before going out into the big wide world. I had a very nice kindergarten teacher who was very supportive of me and communicated with my family frequently. She also was my brother's teacher when he started school. I had begun telling peers at recess about my miracle touch. Issues became a bit more debatable as they related to my witnessing. One day I shared my testimony to my peers as usual. Later, during the end of recess, as we were all lined up to go inside, the line was near a square sand box. A girl came up to me rolling her eyes and made the statement, "There is no God." Then she pushed me to the ground into the sandbox. My teacher